Influence. The capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself. This is something that we see in our daily lives, whether it be ideas, creativity, advice, politics, entertainment, and even games. What if I were to tell you there was one company responsible for revolutionizing gaming as we know it, and not just because of flashy marketing or a one-hit wonder game? How about 6 different games that have become the basis of what makes a game great? From revolutionizing the standards of first-person shooters, to creating one of the most popular esports, redefining what it means to have a successful multiplayer game, and even creating one of the worst entities possible that to this day has become a staple of modern gaming. Valve didn't just make games, they cultivated new and innovative ways that games are played, how they're created, and even how they're sold. And today, we're going to take a look at 6 of their games to see how they've influenced and helped shape the gaming world as we know it today. Now, before we dive into the games themselves, I'd like to give just a brief history of Valve and their platform known as Steam. Not everyone watching this has a PC. Even if they do, maybe they don't know much about these things. Valve was founded on August 24th, 1996 by 2 former Microsoft employees, Mike Harrington and Gabe Newell. They would take their amassed fortunes from working at Microsoft to start their own company, Valve LLC. 3 years before Newell and Harrington left Microsoft to make games, another Microsoft and later Valve employee, Michael Aberish, would do the same. He joined up with Doom developer ID Software, and later helped his former co-workers get a license to use ID's Quake engine. With that toolset now in hand, Gabe, Harrison, and their team would go all in on creating their first game. Valve initially had trouble finding a publisher for the game, mostly because they had such grand ideas for it. Many publishers thought that the grandiose ideas they had for an FPS at the time was too much and too risky to work out. But one publisher would take that risk and it would turn out to be the best decision of their lives. The game would succeed by almost every metric imaginable, breaking new ground for that genre at the time and selling millions of copies. This would plant Valve firmly on the map as game developers. And that game was Half-Life, released on November 19th, 1998. It was sold in retail stores via the publisher Sierra Entertainment. This was Valve's debut game, and what a debut it was. Half-Life wasn't just a run-of-the-mill, walk, point, and shoot FPS. It was a story-driven FPS. But it didn't have to pull you out of the game to do so. You got the story while you played. Think of it like this, right? Nowadays, most games will play cutscenes to tell you something. Even some of the best AAA games still do this. They can't tell you the whole story while you play. They take you out of the immersion and make you watch a short movie before giving you the reins again. Valve didn't want that. They wanted you to stay immersed the entire time you played, never leaving the main character's perspective, Gordon Freeman, the silent yet very interesting protagonist that you play as. While you never get to see your character in-game, or even hear his voice, Gordon Freeman has somehow become an icon of the older FPS era, going so far as to even have references to him and his legendary weapon, the crowbar, in other media. But how was this accomplished? Without cutscenes, how can I know what's happening? Well, everything happened to you in real time. The NPCs would talk to you, tell you what's happening, why they were there, and there was no objective marker. You were told what to do and where to go. Even if you weren't listening, because of Valve's stellar level design, you would still be able to make your way through the game. And to be clear, the NPCs didn't just spew out exposition and cutscene style dialogue, they would react to you, the player, and to the world around them. The scientists talked to you, security guards would react to the environment and the aliens around them. The world itself actually felt alive.
Things are going on whether you're there or not. It's not like, it's not like this world is about a bunch of things standing around waiting for you to show up and shoot them. Some of the monsters really dislike some of the other monsters. There's actually sort of a monster ecology going on. Some monsters breed. If you take a long time to get through the game, there are going to be a lot more of certain kinds of the monsters that are breeding than there would be otherwise. So this world is alive. It's not a real static world.
The design philosophy of seamless storytelling through gameplay has become a staple in modern games today. Back then, telling storytelling parts of the story or lore as you played wasn't really a staple of gaming yet. A lot of it revolved around big screens of text to explain to you what was happening or why you were there, or again, small cutscenes or one long opening video telling you the entire lore and history of what's happening. Now we see games be able to give you information without breaking the gameplay loop. For instance, when characters are talking to each other without the need for a cutscene, or you can see the world or levels around you change to reflect what you as the player are doing. Finally, the AI was also impressive. While by today's standards it may not be good or very hard, the fact that the AI would try to flank the player and even bark out orders to each other like you, fine Freeman, caused many people to think that the AI was all generative and learned to flank as the player moves around. And it was actually the opposite. The developers were just very good at scripting AI, and it was heavily scripted with a tinge of reactive logic thrown in there to help. Finally, the AI would react in the environment. If the player was shooting at the enemies, but there was cover for them to get behind, they would move to the cover, and if the player threw a grenade, the AI would do its best to get out of the way of the grenade. Now, as much as we could go on and on about Half-Life, we still have 5 other games we need to cover. So, without further glazing of Half-Life, let's move on to the next game.
Cheat on your man, homie. Ah, I tried to sneak through the door, man. Can't make it. Can't make it. The shit's stuck. Out of my way, son! Door stuck! Door stuck! Please! I beg you! We're dead!
Now, as many of you may know, Valve is a generous company, and not just in the sense of Steam sales, but also when it comes to their engines. Valve is notorious for allowing anyone to access their engines from their own titles, which is actually how we've gotten some of the games. One of these games being Counter-Strike. In 1999, it was released as a mod for Half-Life, designed by Min Lee and Jess Cliff, before the rights to the mod's intellectual property were acquired by Valve, who then turned Counter-Strike into a retail product released in 2000. Counter-Strike was an objective-based multiplayer FPS with 2 opposing teams, the terrorists and counter-terrorists. The objective is relatively simple. For the terrorist, plant the bomb at one of the bomb sites, or eliminate the opposing team. And for the counter-terrorist, defuse the bomb, or eliminate the opposing team. At the end of each round, there is the buy phase, in which you are rewarded based off of your performance from the previous round. The game also had friendly fire. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Now, what could possibly be so influential about a silly little mod based off of Half-Life? Well, Counter-Strike at the time, and even to this day with CSGO, it revolutionized the competitive FPS market. It pioneered the objective and tactical style of gameplay, and it shifted away from the arcadey and fast-paced style of games like Call of Duty. It also popularized a round-based format for competitive FPSs, with an in-game economy and very technical high skill ceilings. Speaking of in-game economies, we cannot possibly mention Counter-Strike without diving into the world of case opening. This would be introduced in CSGO, where players would spend hundreds to thousands of dollars trying to unbox a legendary knife skin that would not make up for the amount of money they spent trying to get it. Now, if you're waiting for me to talk about the esports scene, well, you're wrong. CSGO was one of the first games to popularize esports, but it wasn't the first. We'll get to that later. Now, while we are still on the topic of FPSs, let's move on to the next game.
Get behind me, Doctor!
Jawohl!
Charge me!
Ja!
I am the Overmensch! Left!
Jawohl!
I'm coming! I'm coming! Good times!
In 2007, Valve would release Team Fortress 2 on Steam. Originally launched alongside Orangebox, TF2 was not yet the funny killbind hack game as we know it today. But by the grace of Gaben himself, Valve would officially make TF2 free-to-play in June 2011. TF2 is a class-based FPS with players given the option to join either red or blue. With all modes being objective-based, there is no team deathmatch, as the game is heavily focused on team play rather than individual players, hence the name. Now, what exactly makes this game so special? For one, it changed the way developers viewed a free-to-play game. This game is still one of the most active games on Steam, even to this day, with how old it is. Game developers would kill to have that level of dedication from players that Valve has gotten with TF2. On top of this, another reason TF2 has changed gaming is because of personality.
This is a bucket.
Dear God.
There's more.
No.
No, I am great with girls. Both got buckets of chicken. You want to do it?
Okay.
Seduce me!
So we're fine, as long as nobody teleports any bread.
Question.
What's your question, soldier?
I teleported bread.
What?
TF2 is a shooter, yes, but it has so much personality to it. From the taunts, cosmetics, characters, dialogue, and even the descriptions of the item, TF2 is filled with humor that people still use to this day. But what did it really revolutionize, right? I mean, that's why you clicked on the video, not to hear me talk about what made it so popular. Well, for starters, payload. Payload is a staple of pretty much every single hero shooter now, and TF2's art style is another reason. What I mean by this is the cartoony, yet also semi-realistic looking graphics. It can run on most systems fairly easily, and they still stand the test of time. If you want to make a free-to-play game like TF2 that's going to last over a decade, it needs to have graphics that aren't going to be outdated when the next console releases. So that's why we saw games like Overwatch and Paladins take a similar approach in their graphics. Cartoony, yet also semi-realistic looking. Next, TF2 also helped popularize gambling. No, not in the sense of any of the betting websites, but with unboxing. In TF2, there are tons of crates you can open with hundreds of cosmetics with different effects, but it's all chance-based, so there's no guarantee that you'll get something you want. Many of you may think of Overwatch when you think of loot boxes, but Valve originally had it before them with pretty much all of their multiplayer games, TF2, CSGO, and Dota 2. Finally, I want to talk about MVM a little bit. TF2 had a game mode against robots. No, not like AI bots from COD, but actual robots that were just machine-looking versions of the characters. It was a wave-based game mode, typically consisting of 7 rounds. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen something like this. A wave-based mode is something we've seen plenty of. But I would say it expedited the gambling as well because, yes, you also had to pay money to play the mode that gave you the rewards. Not only this, but the chances to get said rewards were arguably worse. You could be 500 tours deep and still not have any of the special rewards. Only MVM players can tell you how bad their addictions are to the game mode. Staying on the topic of AI, let's discuss the next game, which is Left 4 Dead is a 2008 first-person shooter game developed by Valve South and published by Valve. Set during the aftermath of an infected outbreak on the east coast of the United States, the game pits its 4 protagonists, dubbed the Survivors, against hordes of the infected. The game was a multiplayer, co-op focused game. Now, cooperative gaming wasn't new once Valve showed up to the gaming scene, but it was predictable. Same levels, same route to take, same enemy AI to fight and evade. But Valve said, we don't want to be predictable. Instead, they wanted to learn what the players would do and how to counter them. Introducing the AI Director. Instead of having a predetermined layout and outcome every single game, the AI Director would make each level dynamic. The Director would place enemies, health, and even obstacles in varying locations depending on each player's current situation, status, skill, and location in each level. In addition to the AI Director, there's a second director that controls music. It was created as a way to keep the soundtrack interesting throughout the game. The music director monitors what a player has experienced to create an appropriate mix. The process is client-side and done by a multi-track system. Each player hears their own mix, which is being generated as they play through the game. Dead spectators will hear their teammates' mix. Remember, this game came out in 2008. For the time, this was insane. A game that could essentially learn how you were playing and dynamically change the environment as you played was revolutionary to say the least.
What we have the AI director that is an artificial intelligence that's watching over the whole scene, and it's going to vary the intensity to keep the experience exciting. Because if we just threw infected at you horde after horde after horde, you'd quickly get burned out. And if it was always like this and too quiet, it would be very boring. So the director watches the intensity of each survivor's experience and then raises and lowers the intensity of the game over time. So sometimes you'll just get totally swarmed, there'll be lots of things going on. Sometimes it'll be eerily quiet like this.
The game also had a dynamic damage system to enemies. You know how in GTA or Red Dead Redemption, when you shoot an enemy in the leg, they'll hobble around or fall over? Well, Left 4 Dead had something similar to that. They had dynamic animations for when they're shot, burning, etc. And there's variability to that, as in you shoot an infected in the head, their head explodes, or you shoot them point blank with a shotgun, center mass, and they'll go flying flying backwards. And the AI would react to the environment, shove a common infected into the wall, and they would bounce off the wall. I can't stress enough how much care was put into the older Valve titles. They really wanted the gameplay and AI to be able to stand the test of time. And again, speaking of AI, let's solve the puzzle to hop on over to Portal is a 2007 puzzle platform game developed and published by Valve. It was originally released in the bundle, the orange box. Portal consists primarily of a series of puzzles that must be solved by teleporting the player's character and simple objects using the Aperture Science handheld portal device, or the portal gun. It's a device that can create interdimensional portals between two flat planes. The player character Shell is challenged and taunted by an artificial intelligence construct named GLaDOS to complete each puzzle in the Aperture Science Enrichment Center using the portal gun with the promise of receiving cake when all the puzzles are completed.
Its conclusion. The Enrichment Center is required to remind you that you will be baked, and then there will be cake.
Now, did Portal have some super crazy multiplayer? No. Did it have a good co-op mode? No. Well, what about the AI system? Also no. So what made this game special? Simplicity. The puzzle solving aspect of this game is simple. You have a portal gun that can create two portals. That's it. That's basically the entire game. Yet, it was a hit. It was a mechanic that made puzzles feel new, without being too overly complicated. Throughout the game, you can feel like every level is completely different, even though you are still just using one basic mechanic the entire time. It was this simplicity that encouraged the developers to become creative. The environment and items in the levels may change 100 times, but every single time you can progress with just the portal gun. Portal is an example that a game with a simple premise can be successful and doesn't need a flashy, over-the-top combat system or dynamic branching story. I'd argue Portal is a good example as to why indie games are popular. Most indie games usually have one or two very simple mechanics in them, but are still fun and interesting to play, sometimes more so than a AAA title. To top it off, writing and humor. GLaDOS is a popular character, not because of the graphics or mad drip she has, but because of her personality. GLaDOS is a great example of how to make a villain memorable and even likable to an extent. Finally, we've arrived at the final game, and it's one that may be the most revolutionary game of all time, and many of you don't even know it. That game is
I said push their racks, not pause for snacks.
Dota 2 is a 2013 multiplayer online battle arena video game by Valve. The game is a sequel to Defense of the Ancients, a community-created mod for Blizzard Entertainment's Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos. Dota 2 is played in matches between two teams of 5 players, with each team occupying and defending their own separate base on the map. Each of the 10 players independently controls a character known as a hero that has unique abilities and differing styles of play. During a match, players collect experience points and items for their heroes to defeat the opposing team's heroes in player versus player combat. A team wins by being the first to destroy the other team's ancient, a large durable structure located in the center of each base. Some of you may be wondering, is Dota 2 better than League of Legends? Yes. With that out of the way, what exactly makes Dota 2 influential and revolutionary? The Battle Pass. Believe it or not, Valve created the first Battle Pass. For you younger gamers out there, Fortnite did not do it first. If you want to watch more about the Battle Pass, you should definitely check out my video on it. Now, when I say Battle Pass, at the time of its inception, it wasn't all that impressive. It was more of a bragging rights type of Battle Pass. Sure, it had some cosmetics in it, like the Immortals or the Courier, but it mostly held things like the team predictions, tournament rewards, and things like a HUD skin. Of course, this wasn't the only thing Dota 2 did. While Valve has ruined or helped the gaming sphere with the Battle Pass, depending on how you view it, Valve did do something beneficial for gamers with Dota 2. And this is the point I mentioned earlier with CSGO. Yes, Dota 2 actually did it first. Dota 2 held their first TI, which is also where the Battle Pass was introduced, in 2013. This would go on to set the esports world on fire, and would popularize it to an extent that gaming would become even more mainstream. For the first time time, gaming was actually seen by a broader audience as a sport that was competitive. Yes, we already had fighting tournaments like Smash Bros, but those were more niche and didn't reach as wide of an audience. For Dota 2, you had people who didn't even play it watching the internationals, and Valve took it very seriously for a while. The production quality and hype around it was insane. Dota 2 also has the title for one of the biggest prize pools in esports history. Genuinely life-changing winnings right there. And that is again in thanks to the Battle Pass. At the time, the Battle Pass would contribute to the prize pool of TI, so the more people who bought it, the higher that prize pool went up, meaning the higher the hype was. Sadly, it's not this way anymore. The Battle Pass is not nearly as good as it used to be, and to be quite frank, there isn't really a reason to ever buy it anymore. Nowadays, there are actually other tournaments that give out more than TI. The reason for this is a long one, maybe something for another video. But regardless, the effects of Dota 2 have been long-lasting and are never going anywhere. You may have thought that was all. I've covered all 6 games. What more could there possibly be? Well, my dear viewer, I have a surprise for you. On September 12th of 2003, Valve would create the most well-known and iconic PC platform known to the human race, Steam. Not only is Valve well known for creating all the iconic aforementioned games, but Valve owns the largest PC platform online. Not only this, but just like their games, the platform itself has stood the test of time. You can say that you use Epic Games, the EA launcher, or any of the other ones to try and be different, but they all pale in comparison to Steam. It has become the backbone of modern day PC gaming. The digital distribution, auto updates, cloud saving, community features, mods, trading, and arguably the most holy of them all, the King Gaben Steam sales. You just can't beat Steam. In conclusion, Valve's impact on the gaming industry, and even the PC industry as a whole, is simply too much to be overlooked. You could call them the granddad of PC gaming, and even some gaming features as well. While Valve is well known for creating amazing and memorable games, they're also infamously known for not releasing games or updates for said games. But when they do, it usually shakes the industry as a whole. Half-Life redefined the FPS genre, showcasing how important storytelling is. Counter-Strike pioneered the tactical competitive shooter genre. Team Fortress 2 helped popularize the free-to-play genre. Left 4 Dead showcased how adaptive AI can make a game fun and replayable. Portal showed innovation and simplicity go a long way. Dota 2 elevated competitive gaming and redefined microtransactions in games. And Steam itself transformed the way games are sold. Very few companies have ever influenced and revolutionized gaming this deeply. And even to this day, companies are still chasing after that Valve success and what it means to be a successful company. If you've played any Valve games in your life, which ones have you played? And is there anything else I missed as far as innovation in these games go? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all the support I've been getting here recently, and I hope you have a good morning, good afternoon, or a good night.